Everybody, welcome back to another edition of VC TV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and we are here to speak about investing in this new reality. And new reality, really, we're speaking about 2020, 2021, and this decade ahead of us. We've seen the digitization and the acceleration of such more than we ever have before in this last year. But what does that mean and where does that go? Because if we take a little time ride back a couple months, there was a ton of conversation that in March, April, and May, we would see no more deals. We would see very little investment activity. We would see very few investments done because the uncertainty that lasted the rest of the year. Well, turned out we had March and April, which was a very big focus time for those investments we had all made. And as founders, we were figuring out where to go, what to do next, how to navigate with our customers and provide them what they still need. And then it was game on. It went on fire. Right now, we're looking at one of the best years in venture capital when everyone was calling it possibly one of the worst years for investing and opportunities. Instead, it's the complete opposite and better than some of the years previously where we've seen downturns in the overall global economies. Except this year, it's game on. We've got more companies going public, more companies going public through SPACs and other vehicles. We've got more new funds being deployed in all different types of verticals. We've got new companies. We've got new fundings from the very early all the way to the very late stages, more than we ever had in a very recent years. And that is just the beginning as we are looking towards a very exciting decade ahead as all these technologies that we're speaking about here on VCTV start to come true and begin their true intersection into industry. So get ready. We're here to talk just about that. And here on VCTV, we bring together the best and the brightest from around the world to share with you their thoughts and insights and on the ground perspective of what's happening in different technologies, industries, and regions around the world. And again, that's what we're going to be doing today. Speaking of all investments, all areas around the world. And if you would like to be on a show like today as our investors, reach out. We'd love to have you. And in entrepreneurs, what better way to end the year and start another than joining us here on the virtual stage at VCTV to pitch us as investors and founders focus on your industry to get real-time feedback on your company, product, or service. Also, build foundational relationships with each of us because we're all live. We're all here to talk with you. And also get exposure to our great community out there as well. Do reach out to the team and or myself, and we'd love to find the right spot for you. Last but not least, that team. The big LATOKEN team and Maria, thank you so very much for all you do to bring us all together here on VCTV every day, all day, to talk about all these great subjects as we do. With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and dive in. Adrian, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. A little intro and a little background for everybody, please.
Thank you very much, Kyle, for having me. Hello, Irina. Hello, Maria. Hello, LATOKEN team. And hello, everybody. We are just few today, so I have a little more space for shout-outs. My name is Adrian Niculescu. I'm involved in few projects. One of them is CloudCoin Consortium. CloudCoin is a post-blockchain digital currency. I'm also involved with Faster Capital, which is a Dubai-based accelerator and incubator for startups, and a mentor in Richard Branson's Virgin Startups in UK. Very happy to be here. Again, it's a family gathering.
That it is. And you know, speaking of family, we've been able to do so much together here over 2020. We've talked a lot on VCTV about all these opportunities and investing, what it takes and what it does not take to raise capital here in this year, but also some of those industries that are popping and others that are slowing down, the very few, as it seems like everything is an opportunity today. And with that, I want to introduce Irina, who brings some really cool opportunities our way around space and around other industries, which I'll let her share in just a moment. But Irina, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back as always. I love VCTV and I love what we're doing. Dubai is holding in person blockchain innovation conference. Right now, I know, and I'm full admission, I'm definitely FOMO, but it's okay. So it's fine. I'm happy to be back here as well. And, you know, we're connecting. That's what we're doing, right? So instead of being in Dubai, we're our homes right now connecting and we are being productive. And that's that's the wonder of our technology. My name is Irina Litchfield. I am founder of Blockchain Cubed. Blockchain Cubed is a blockchain integration company, obviously. And then I'm president of Lumeria. Lumeria is where capital meets innovation. Our goal is to democratize opportunities and to democratize investments for people all over the world and to innovate capital markets. So I'm founding advisor of Ape Global Securities Exchange. I'm a senior advisor of Space Fund. I'm advisor of ProChain Capital, and a couple of different things. And it's a pleasure to be here. And you're right, Kyle, a lot of activities happening. It's unprecedented what is happening right now in the world.
It's just wild. I mean, we go back even just a few months. PitchBook was calling, Q3 2020 as a down quarter compared to 2019. But then when we look here at Q4, so the fourth quarter heading into the end of the year, I mean, it's just highlight after highlight after highlight of fundraising and acquisitions. Now, what does that come to at the end of the year in terms of the full aggregate? We'll see, but it seems like investors can't stop. And it seems like there's just opportunity everywhere, whether you're building an app around protecting personal data, whether you're redefining the future of mobility, whether you're looking at fashion, you're looking at commerce as a whole, you're looking at voice. I mean, it's everywhere. Andreessen just put out a huge A16, or Andreessen Horowitz for those listening, just put out a huge section of their new website all around the future of social and audio and video. I mean, it hasn't stopped. And I think, in my personal opinion, I'd love to hear yours, this is because 2020, as we've said, and I've said multiple times on the show, is the foundational year to this incredible decade we're about to see in front of us, where so many different technologies and so many different industries are going to change more rapidly than ever. And it seems like it's going to be playing true. And Irina, I'll kick it off with you. I mean, how are you feeling about this? Am I crazy? Or do you feel the same way, that this is gangbusters and we are about to just go on this rocket ship?
Yep, absolutely. Literally also. So, which is exciting too. And I mean, literally as far as for the space too, right? So much is happening in the world. You're not crazy at all, Kyle. I mean, that's exactly what's happening. And acceleration and integration is happening very, very rapidly. I do believe it's due to reality change and the fact that we kind of already figured out and embraced current reality. And as we are embracing current reality, I do believe that we are finding a lot of optimization of our time. We were very freely traveling. It was normal to have a dinner first and have meetings, a number of meetings before, and the time was not accounted, right? So that changed, and now we can kind of just forego, if you would, a lot of intermediary steps that were part of our process, and we redefined our process. And because we redefined our process and we're comfortable with it, I believe we can now see more deals, we can have more people to talk to. We're just in generally more available. I mean, think of the quality of people that you can actually reach out and talk to. Usually it would be very hard because, look, if I'm traveling to Dubai, I am not going to be available to have a conversation during my travel time. And then when I arrive and I'm speaking at the conference, there's no way to catch me other than at the conference because I am physically there. Right? So if I have a speaking engagement, if I'm a keynote and I have a couple meetings in town with wherever I need to go to, I am going to be unavailable to get hold of during the time I leave my home to the time I come back, plus added recovery time, right? Because when we're traveling and we're having all these meetings, our bodies in the end of the day and the families and everything. And so I think that's what it is. I think it's optimization of our time and finally the trust into connectivity. We accepted that we will have to look at each other through Zoom or whatever other medium we're looking at. And I think it's allowing us to do better deals and to see just see more deals, right? I mean, think about how much amazing companies you get a chance to look at now.
So that's the kicker right there is with the travel, you're absolutely right. You lose a couple days on either side going and coming back. You're very short at the conference, and it's hard to get in touch with people. It's hard to hear a pitch. It's hard to take the time, etc. And then when you're not traveling, again, you only have a finite amount of time, and there's commuting. These are small things, but they do add up. And the one big point to Irina's what she just mentioned, and I just want to hit on it for a second, is the visibility. Gary's mentioned this, and a handful of others, including yourself, have mentioned this here on VCTV, is the amount of deal flow you see now as an investor versus 2019, and we'll just make it easy for comparison, is vastly different. And it's also a little bit easier to start making some of those investments because of this network effect that you've built over the time, that you can now start understanding and learning how to invest in maybe new regions or new local areas that you wouldn't have as otherwise, and new industries, because there is so much education, because there is such easy access to this. I mean, if I was sitting in your seat right now, to me, it's a flip of the entire mindset of how I think about investing, right? Real time, all day, every day education. Most companies, it's just local structures. If not, most are filing in the United States as a Delaware C Corp, generally speaking, of course. And then from there, it's just how much time do you have, and how do you really narrow your focus in terms of an industry? But real quick, Irina, to you, I mean, has your thesis changed going into 2020 and closing it out, looking even at 2021? Are you seeing new industries? Are you seeing more industries that you want to start making bets on, as opposed to closing out 2019?
Absolutely. And I mean, when we think about thesis too, there's what we want to invest in. We dream about having ability to be able to invest in. And then there's the thesis, right? And this year, innovation thesis exploded. I mean, right. Quantum machines, the quantum development is happening. Space companies, and we're talking about diversified and many different companies, not just launch, right? Not just Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and a couple. Well, you can't even get into Jeff. If you cannot get into Jeff Bezos deal, right? Like that's just but ability to be able to have so many companies going for it. And I think that that really pushed a lot of pieces open. I really do believe that for a lot of investors now, if they finally embrace the understanding that they need to be able to invest in that which they don't completely understand. It's like expanding the mindset. And for me personally as well, the ability of the projects I'm willing to look at, it has grown. And I think of myself as a spirit of innovation, right? The integration of innovations has been something that I've been talking about for 5 years, right? That we must be able to integrate different innovations to create really better systems, because it's all segregated. As it's happening into reality, it is surprising me, and I do see a lot of investors starting to think, okay, because something changed in my life so much and it is a reality now, I need to actually start accepting the ever-changing world, right? And as the news coming out, as our availability coming out, as more education is coming out, investors are really diversifying. I mean, look at space. It's unbelievable what's happening in space. Companies, A-round companies closing $100 million rounds.
It's incredible. And space I want to come back to in just a moment, but Adrian, I want to switch over to you. So current state, I mean, how are you seeing things here in being very different from your perspective, 2019 to 2020, as we look to 2021 around investing?
First, we as people are an adaptive species. And a funny thing, 2-3 years ago, some people made fun of me because I was working from home in different instances. And they said, okay, but how can you work at home with the kids? It's so complicated. um, why not in an office where you can gossip with other people? I said, okay, I work like crazy sometimes. I'm a workaholic. Maybe I'm not the best example, but I'm coming from Eastern Europe, and when I was a child and a teenager, Saturday was a working day. So I work on Saturdays, and even I've added this on my TV on my CV. I'm working on Saturdays since 17 years old. So that's it. And sometimes even on Sundays, but not in the first half of the day because that part is dedicated to, you know. Um, so um, suddenly everybody started to work the way I was working for a few years, which was a totally crazy thing. And what I said when the March 2020 came, and I went at that moment to a speaking event in Istanbul, which was pretty cool, but it was right at the beginning of lockdowns. I said, okay, is 100% that something will change radically, and I have two choices. One of them is to binge on TV and to become lazy, and the other part is okay to see what I can do different, how much I can contribute. And I started to talk with startups to donate hours. At a certain moment, because I was anyway in contact with the LATOKEN team, this series of events started. Um, um, in the investor space, I saw initially fear. After that, I started to see greed and opportunities. I'm it's not a hobby. It can be like a part-time business. I'm trading on a daily basis. So I'm on stock exchange, on crypto exchanges, usually in the morning, lunchtime, and in the evening. So besides what I'm seeing in the startup worlds, I can I can sense the sentiments in the market. And sometimes these sentiments in the market are different than how the market are performing. And what happened after the initial blockage, the initial fear, the sentiments started to be positive, and people say, especially the ones who passed through the 2008 crisis and other personal crises. Um, by the way, I've been in different crises for 25 years. So as an entrepreneur, it's a continuous type of crisis. The crises are different. And I started to see this very nice optimism, positive vibes, and say, okay, this is the situation. Look, there are many opportunities. We can meet face to face online. People very hard to be reached when you go to an event to speak or to meet somebody, or if you want to meet certain persons, you have a lot of gatekeepers. Somehow those gatekeepers disappeared, and everybody, even very high profile people, became available for a Zoom, for a call, which was impossible before. So I said, okay, it means that the access to that upper world became more accessible for the ones who want to make an effort and climb the stairs. For the ones who say, okay, I want to stay to watch, I don't know, Netflix or something, the state to help me. I want this, I want that, but I will stay lazy like crazy. So for the hustlers, there's a new world opening, which is very different than before, because it's easier to penetrate at the end of the day, if I can say that.
Right. Well, and so question on that, Adrian, is similar to what I was asking Arena. Has your thesis changed? So I know you do a little bit of trading, but I also know you've been building, and I also know you're doing a few other things. So as you've shared here on VCTV, but has your thesis changed coming into the close of 2020 and looking at 2021 of where you may be spending your time and or industries you want to be investing in? Because, you know, we've got so many listeners out there that are wondering what's next. 2020, everything seems to be on the table. Everything. I mean, right now it's December. We'll call it out. We'll date this episode. It's December 8th, 2020. And right now we have a slew of end of the year predictions and next year predictions of where to watch or what to watch. I've put some out. We've all done it. To you, Adrian, where do you think we're going in 2021? To the listeners that are out there, where should they be thinking, hey, this is the industry that Adrian told me is going to be popping? Where should I be paying attention to?
I'm looking very close to three industries. Where is my focus? Real estate, financial including crypto, and of course entertainment. My deepest love, I would say. And
Right.
in real estate, still the industry was not shaken yet. There are some tokenizations efforts, but very slow. And this industry is right at the beginning of being disrupted. In the fintech and the crypto world, I see huge opportunities, not in creating a new fintech with new basic cards, with metal cards, with this membership, that membership. In the lending space,
Mhm.
this seems to be the last redoute to be conquered. And
Mhm.
of course, a huge integration between the old world, the old money, the paper money, and the newest and the sexiest ways of transforming fiat into crypto. And in the entertainment world, I'm looking at the next wave of companies after Spotify, Mixcloud, and
Cool.
SoundCloud, because um, this first wave of companies still seem not to be very fair with artists. By the way, I
Mhm.
saw yesterday that I think Universal bought Bob Dylan's catalog,
Yes, for
which
200 plus
had a
million
hefty
dollars.
price.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll see many movements like that. And if we are looking, I will use the Netflix example, creating of content which is available exclusive on a certain platform will make the difference. So I
Mhm.
see a lot of opportunities there, and the classical television will be more and more replaced by different types of content on demand distribution. And these three industries, I have my all focus on learning everything about the movements here, to identify the trends, to potentially do some investments or
Mhm.
to facilitate some raises, and to learn as much possible, and to be to stay as much away from laziness, as much away from this laziness.
That's a good point, and you know I want to switch views. And Arena, I do want to come back to actually let's come to space real quick, and then we'll switch views. Space. I'm becoming just as bullish between you and Megan, Megan Crawford, who's one of the founding partners of Space Fund. The two of you have convinced me more than I ever was convinced on how to start investing in the space industry. It's just outstanding. And to our listeners, if you haven't, go back and look at some of our episodes around that. Arena and Megan talk a ton about this, but Arena, space we've talked about is very exciting, but it also feels very far away. Quantum, same thing, exciting, very far away. looking at 2021, what advice would you throw out to the audience, since you don't have to travel, to them about blockchain and quantum? And I'll throw in their space as well, if they're looking to start making some bets in 2021. What advice would you give them to start looking? Because this is a 20, 30-year bet.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I would like to say something. As a human, so there's been a number of studies that kind of demonstrated that when we predict the future, and we predict the future in the short term, within 2 years, what we usually do is we over-predict. So, but when we think of the future in 10-year term plus, we have a tendency to under-predict. And it's just kind of how our mind works. Now it changes when we go into 100 years because the mind changes completely. But the point to me here is that that's why it often looks that the things kind of are moving faster, right? Because think of a blockchain. 10 years ago, there's no way in the world would we ever predict that what we're experiencing right now in the end of 2020, post third halving year, what's happening, right? Like we were hoping that Bitcoin is, we won't all be in jail because we're in Bitcoin industry. Let's face the reality. I mean, that's, and my point there is that I like to think in 10-year terms and then really allow myself to think further. The reason it's important is because your 10-year investment thesis really needs to be a little bit more innovative than your short-term investments. So that's my point. But for space, go to spacefund.com and see the space ratings. The reason it's important is because it's an actual resource for you to understand the ecosystem, right? So you can see how much funding is deployed into launch, what kind of other subverticals are there to not launch, right? Like what kind of servicing companies are there? And most importantly, you can see the kind of what the ecosystem of space looks like, how it needs to look like, and what kind of opportunities are there that don't have enough deployed funding. And I would argue that those are your interesting opportunities to look at. When we think about quantum, it's kind of similar. I would say that follow a fund that has been investing in quantum for a while, and then make sure that you do your due diligence research. Reach out to quantum scientists, okay? Because you see, if you're deploying money and if you wanted to write a check, this becomes a real thing, right? Like you really want to, while you don't have to understand exactly what's going on, what you need to do is know, okay, like, is this just a crazy claim of whatever? Am I getting scammed? These are all questions we constantly ask ourselves, right? So I would say reach out to professor and a couple professors, Google them and in quantum research and ask them for advice, ask them to look at it. Maybe ask them if they would consider advising you in a way to where they could look at the projects that are coming in. Think a little bit outside of the box. And remember, they will give you time. If you go to a scientist and say, oh my God, is this project awesome? I guarantee to you, they will know people that are working on amazing things. And I recommend getting in that way. And blockchain. Now, I mean, we are the post-halving year guys, and the system is designed in such a way to where it's a growth cycle, right? And things are going better than we predicted. The fact that public companies in America diversifying their treasury with Bitcoin, it's unbelievable. The reason it's important to think about Bitcoin is because blockchain companies, right, or performances of blockchain companies, all your crypto portfolio, especially your cryptocurrencies, that includes your tokens as well, they're coupled to Bitcoin. Okay. And so what that means is that as Bitcoin is growing, it's pulling up all of the kind of your alts, which is alternative currencies, and tokens. I think that when we are going to get to 2021, we're going to see a huge growth in 2.0s. What that means is that it's the companies that went through the growth cycle last time, which was 2017, right? Or 2016, basically all of them that came up. That includes Ethereum, right? So we will have a lot of 2.0s, but that will also include tokens as well. And all of these companies right now in the process of lining up themselves to announce their new products, their new developments, their kind of pushing the media. Now that we get to 20,000, which is last time all high, we are getting really near term to where the attention of the world, the attention of innovators, the attention of investors is really starting to look and also other things that is Bitcoin. So I think that there's a lot of interesting opportunities to looking at those companies that went and raised, right, that have survived, that are here and that are now slowly announcing their new products, because now that means that it's a final application. So basically they went and raised money, they dealt with problems, all of them dealt with problems as expected, and now as the growth cycle is happening, they can have enough momentum to be able to deliver, and all of them have been building for last 3 years. So I think that this is going to be great growth. And I do believe that in the end of next year, I do believe that by the end of next year, it might take a little bit longer, we will finally experience decoupling. And that will be important.
Absolutely. And one question I'd like to come to both of you on is around advice. So as companies are looking to fundraise going into 2021, what advice do you have for them to prepare for this? Because things are a little different, and that'll come into my second question afterwards. But what advice do you have for companies that are looking to fundraise here in the next few months and going into next year? Adrian.
My advice would be to focus on generating income. So few startups are focused on generating income, how the startup will make money. They are talking about innovation, about technology, but not about how the startup plans to become profitable. Because at the end of the day, for investors, is very important profitability. Because over the years, even if the sentiment is positive now and the optimism is very high, the figures will speak for themselves. Many investors are not happy with startups, even if they are featured everywhere, that are burning money like crazy, and if they are not flooded with new capital over time, they are dying because they are not profitable, and they are in a very dangerous position. And we saw many stories like that, WeWork and others, where the things didn't look very nice, even if they were spread it all over the media about all the media wrote about their startup. At the end of the day, it's a money thing. So the startups, they have to be focused on creating stable income and bringing return on investment to the investors.
Got it. So make money, focus on revenue. Irina, to you, same question, piece of advice that you give to fundraisers or to investors, to entrepreneurs looking to fundraise next year.
Make sure your deck has the right flow. I would recommend following maybe Sequoia, kind of a flow. It's available, it's public. Just go and Google it, and it's for all stages of the companies. Obviously, once we get to those that are in growth stage, and are more mature, which is usually about C+ round, they already understand the importance of the proper deck. But sometimes you still see, Yeah. So make sure your deck is correct. And the reason it's important is I agree with Adrian is that you have to demonstrate certain metrics. And I don't think about it as a revenue because we can evaluate companies for many different things. You do not necessarily have to have revenue by C round, right? You don't, but you can be a growth stage company. So, and you know, how we get to revenue, how do you get to revenue? You must understand, you have to have matrix, and how we measure that upcoming revenue is important. And that will be in the flow of your deck. And so basically the way I like to think about it, and people really like to do that if they don't have the answer to it, because it's very hard thing to conceptualize sometimes. Some of the aspects of the business, they just kind of skip it. Right? But you look at that flow, you look at the deck, and it means that you have to have the answer to each one of them, okay? No matter what. And if you do not have the answer to it, then you reach out to investors, and then you reach out to your advisors, and you say, look, I need to make sure I have this answer, because without this answer, my business is not quite viable because it's missing an important answer. And so concentrate on that, and make sure you can pitch, right? Again, for earlier, 90-second pitch. If you cannot do the American Marketing Association standard, if you cannot pitch, if you cannot explain to me what the hell your company does in 90 seconds, I mean,
you're nicer than I am. I give 60 seconds. 90
yeah.
seconds. Arena's giving you 90 seconds, audience. So you've got a little bit more time than I give you as an investor. But to her point, I mean, know your business, know it inside and out. Where maybe not all in the deck, but most of it is. Still know the answers to the questions. And as you go through that pitching process, take note of the questions being asked. Make adjustments to your story, make adjustments to your presentation, know how to answer those questions as you go. This is a long journey. You're building a company is not being built in a few months, it's being built over many, many years, and in some cases decades, as well as the company grows and scales. But coming to both of you for closing thoughts, we now have cafes, safes, SAFs, SPACs, we have convertible notes, we have syndicates, we have everything for both sides of the table. Investors and entrepreneurs, in your closing thoughts, do you have any advice on the investment instruments or how the investment landscape will change in 2021 as we started seeing the democratization of all of this, and if anything, really just the spread of almost anybody now can invest in a private company, and not just to those that were typically high net worth individuals or met certain qualifications. So Adrian, to you, in your closing thoughts here, and before you tell everyone where they can find you, how do you see the investor landscape changing in 2021?
I see a big trend in diversification more than before. It's a strategy which is used also by funds with startups, but also is used when investing in cryptocurrencies or investing in up and coming stocks. It's called asymmetric investment, meaning that instead of placing everything on or 1 to 3 opportunities, you spread smaller amounts on 5, 6, 10 of them, and like equal amounts. And in many occasions, especially I saw that, of course, if the due diligence is made correctly, 1 to 3 will make the effort worth doing, and the profit will be there. And I would like also to add something to what Irina said. Unfortunately, I'm not a specialist in the space industry, but to get the feet wet for anybody, just you can look, for example, in the stock market at Virgin Galactic Holdings. It's just a basic example. The price was like $20 2 months ago, and now it's $32. So more than 50% profit. Of course, there are many things to be said. It's a lot of marketing here, but it has fantastic potential, this industry. But first, you need to understand it. I like sci-fi movies, but I'm not a specialist in space investments. So asymmetric investment is, from my point of view, the word for 2021.
Got it. And where can everyone find you online, Adrian?
I can be found everywhere, but especially on LinkedIn. I answer the fastest on LinkedIn. I'm Adrian Niculescu, happy to help. I answer to all messages, sometimes not very fast. Happy to be here, and can't wait to come back to contribute more to this fantastic effort of educating the market, which is very important.
Thank you very much, Adrian. We're looking forward to having you back as well. And Irina, to you, same question in your closing thoughts, and then where can everyone find you?
Thank you. Well, so the question, hold on, the question, the vehicles of investments. I remember. Okay, I remember.
So how does the investor landscape change in 2021?
Yeah. I think we'll see a lot of hybrid models coming out, especially since the blockchain is becoming more popular, and tokenized offerings will come back to fancy. We will finally see securities tokens platforms actually, be able to provide offerings. There are a number of them that are being right now that are, under different types of licenses all over the world. So we'll see those models, and those are kind of new to us because we haven't seen liquidity on them, right? So your security tokens are not new thing because we kind of started issuing them at the end of the growth cycle, and they kind of died out, right? But they have been issued, and a lot of them have been around for a year now. So, for example, Space Fund first security tokens will be released to the investors in a week, right? So that's going to be really interesting because those are going to be first ever space security tokens, and that means that all within inside of the portfolio, those companies are tokenized, and Space Fund has quite a delicious portfolio, if you would. So we're very proud that a lot of those offerings are going to be on a blockchain and as a security offerings. I also see a big democratization of opportunities across the border. Because right now, what we're seeing is, for the most part, funding that's happening here. It's kind of hard to raise across the border right now. So we're quite segregated at this point. Now, within inside of the networks, we're seeing funding. But if you're not inside of the network, we're not seeing that funding right now. So I believe that we are building pathways to be able to open up borders and open up segregated investment markets, even without having to get on the planes, right? And that's, remember, I believe that the restrictions and problems with the international fundraising right now is because companies cannot get on the plane and investors cannot get on the plane. And so everything is happening locally. We have tools, and we're building tools to democratize capital markets. And so I do think that we will see a lot of interesting growth actually coming through traditional finance, through traditional applications, through just having to go public for $20 million globally, right? Because it makes sense. If your prices are correct, you can do that, and then you can actually keep going and fundraising money, right, as you need. But I think we will see that passing of the opportunities into unsophisticated investors' hands, because it is now clear to us as for the institutional investors, for people that can deploy a lot of money, that we need more liquidity. We need faster liquidity. We need to be able to get money into the projects faster and more, because there's an increase of these opportunities. We need more money, and for us to be able to access that money, we need to pass those opportunities to unaccredited, unsophisticated investors. You know, as I mentioned, you know, that African taxi driver is always at my heart, and I really believe that it's not just passing opportunities to her, but allowing us to understand that public votes with their dollars on the project, so we then can write bigger checks and make better investments as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Best place to find me, I would say, message me on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. I've been active on it, so thank you to you guys. You inspired me, you know. So, and LinkedIn as well. Just make sure you let me know what is that you want to connect about, which industry it is, and you know, whether you're a startup or not. And if you're a startup or you're a mature company, just be ready to pitch me in 90 seconds. So, you know, just make sure that you capture my attention and have your deck and have all the slides. And one last thing, remember that when you have a missing slide, that becomes your ask. That's all. You always have to ask. Don't pitch without having an ask.
Absolutely. And Adrian, Irina, thank you both very much for sharing your thoughts and insights. To your audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up as well. Do reach out if you'd like to join Irina, Adrian, and some of our other investors, thank you, Irina, and Adrian, on other episodes of VCTV, as we bring the best and the brightest to talk about the latest in different technologies, industries, and regions around the world to keep you updated at home, whether you're investing and or building, so you have the latest to make the best decisions for your success. And entrepreneurs, what better way to end the year and kick off another, as we just talked about what you need to do to be prepared closing out this year and looking at another, than joining us here at the virtual stage on VCTV. Come up, pitch us as investors and entrepreneurs, focus on your industry to get real-time feedback on your company, product, or service, along with building foundational relationships with each of us and exposure to the live audience. Reach out to the team and or myself, and we'd love to find the right spot for you. Last but not least, a big thank you to the LA Token team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day, all day, anywhere on your device in the world. With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. You can find me at Kyle Ellicott, along with all of our investors online 24/7, 365. And do remember to add context, as Irina mentioned, when you reach out. With that, we'll be taking a short break. And